back to Superior Sunrise. With me now, Casey Mabry of Blue Reef Agri-Marketing. Casey, it's great to have you back in. We talked at the beginning of the year kind of about the market, but now as we're coming here to the end of the year, if you could just kind of give us a recap of what we've seen in the market this year.
You bet. So we've had a lot of volatility and a lot of change in the market. We've had a lot of, the interesting part about it is we started out the beginning of the year, the cash market was about 135 from a fed cattle standpoint. We had to cut out much higher than what it is today. And then as the year has grown on, what we've had is we've had a large increase in production, mostly driven by the ability for packers to be able to get cattle through the supply chain. So that's created a more robust demand for cattle, really specifically feedlot cattle, or the way that we're transacting those. It hasn't necessarily increased demand for beef, but that doesn't necessarily matter to the feed yard at this current time. But the biggest change that we've seen from a year ago when we sat here and talked about it is the ability to get these cattle harvested, and that's increased the price as we've gone through the balance of the year.
So we've seen a lot of different factors that could have contributed to the changes in the market this year. What are some of those factors that are going to carry into next year, and what are maybe some new things that producers want to be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I think when we talk about specifically like feeder cattle, I think the biggest change that we had this year is this drought that we had. We had a drought last year out in the west, and then we came out into this year, and then it's predominantly in Texas and Oklahoma where we've wiped out this cow herd once again. And so we've had 2 years in a row of probably one of the more unprecedented drought conditions and liquidation conditions. A lot of people have, kind of said we need to get ahead of this thing, so you created a little bit of false demand for cattle early on. But as we go through from now until for the next several months, the telltale sign of this thing is going to be, where are the calves at? And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Our bias is there's less cattle out there. You'll have people that want to change ownership of those cattle as price goes higher. But again, lower cattle supplies, bigger demand for cattle as we've seen better supply or better harvest rates.
You and I were just talking before we came on. You're talking about ownership changing in these cattle. What are you working with your producers right now in this month? What are you guys working on?
Yeah, so when we're talking about specifically the cattle in the feedlots, a lot of those cattle, the bulk of them would have been placed between August and October. We've started to hedge a few of those cattle as the market's given us a lot of opportunity in chop, so it's gone up and down as we're trying to price in what the spring cattle are going to be. The volatility has actually been something that's pretty neat. As you've looked over the last several days, we've most recently pushed up against the contract guys. And like I was telling you a minute ago, the market's trying to figure out what the spring price is going to be. Lots of optimism out there. A lot of people are bullish. What we're trying to do is make sure we're mitigating risk for something that we don't see. Some type of a black swan event, some type of a macroeconomic factor that could impact us. So that's what we're working with our producers on, really is trying to control the emotional side of it. As prices get high, sometimes we get euphoric, trying to tamper that and make sure that we try to maximize the best price that we can get. However, making sure that we don't, overdo it.
Well, right quick before we go, you have a lot of solutions for producers. What does a producer need to know about getting in touch with you guys and what you can do for them?
Yeah, so you can reach out to us on our phone number. It's 817-736-0230. We have a team of people that can help you out, work through that. This LRP thing has changed considerably in the last year. Predominantly, like right now, where we think the prices are going to go drastically higher. That gives you an opportunity to capture that. And then if we did have something that hurt us from a market standpoint, we're protected. So I think that's the biggest thing right now in these market conditions that we're focusing on.
Well, Casey, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your wisdom on the market and the insight that you bring to us. Don't go anywhere. We have more Superior Sunrise up next.